Hello, my name is Cole Hornaday, and this is The Panel Jumper. Ask anyone and they'll tell you that comic books are primarily a vehicle for cape and cowl male power fantasies. But in sooth, they're as much a means of escapism as a tool for cultural revolution. Picture, if you will, Czechoslovakian art lecturer Petr Sedensky. It's 1961, and he's gone deep behind the Iron Curtain to extol the virtues of contemporary Soviet art and cinema. But upon the lecture platform, his nerves get the better of him, and he lets slip his fascination with the work of Western dissidents like Walt Disney and the deeply subversive comic strips of Crazy Cat, Superman, and Steve Canyon, earning him a harsh and hairy eyeball from the Kremlin, and the attention of an odd little clandestine band of dissidents, the Progressive Political Pornography, or the PPP, who convince him to join their cause. According to Sedensky, the PPP were staunch Leninists and all about the original vision of the communist revolution. Ideals they believed were corrupted and distorted by Stalin and Soviet communism. You see, in Soviet art, sex and romance seldom rear their little heart-shaped heads. A life in the party is all about the party.
Our cause is just. The people want
titillation!
Titillation!
Sadly, Dr. Freud loses in the throwdown with Mr. Marx every single time. Fast forward 10 years, and Sedensky has defected to the West, where he convinces publishers at Harper & Row to print his memoirs of his life in the underground. In these memoirs, Sedensky talks about the Samostat Mitsura. Between the covers of this underground zine, readers find the type of transgressive material that would send them, not to mention its publishers, on a long and luxurious vacation to a picturesque gulag. She in? Mitsura also featured the illustrated, serialized adventures of a statuesque woman with deep-set eyes, a strangely enticing unibrow, and a bright red star tattooed upon her forehead. She can fire a Kalashnikov from her hip while piloting a pterodactyl through the skies over Moscow with her knees. She can wrestle giant radioactive walruses and turn herds of stampeding yaks with a switch of her elbow. She is a Slavic Bridget Bardot, a Georgian Jane Mansfield.
Manager Mike! Are they browsing or bike?
She is OCTOBRIANA, daughter of the October Revolution. Stars upon thars.
Mostly browsing.
Make them buy.
Boss, it's New Comic Wednesday. Let them browse.
Don't make me hush you. I do not run library. Make them buy.
Oh, Jean boy. Do you know what a big deal it is to have this many women in the store at one time?
Sedensky's book is not a bestseller. In fact, most comic book aficionados don't discover it until it hits the remainder tables at their local bookstore.
Manager Mike! Are you working or goofing off?
Neither. I'm upselling.
And it's puzzling. Whatever Sedensky's definition of pornography, this ain't it. OCTOBRIANA's comics are far from prurient, and aside from her anemic tube top and, Pinocchio-like protuberances, what's found in these panels barely qualifies as PG-13.
No titillation?
Da, niet.
And for a work of supposed political dissidents, there's very little that's overtly anti-Soviet or even promoting the true ideals of communism. It's just a wacky adventure comic. Over the years, OCTOBRIANA begins to bubble up everywhere. UK comic book iconoclast Brian Talbot incorporates the Bolshevik Barbarella into a psychedelic punk rock answer to Doctor Who, The Adventures of Luther Arkwright. And rocker Billy Idol even sports an OCTOBRIANA tattoo.
I read this book about these 6 Russian art students in the 60s, and they created this cartoon character, this Mata Hari, spy-type person, who vanquishes the foes of real communism. Well, I really liked this book, and I had on my mind at the time, so I marched down to Cliff Raven's studio on Sunset Strip with the book in my hand, and I went, "Oi, put this bird on me arm," to the guy behind the counter. It cost me $75, but I cut him down from $150. You know, I might go back and give him the other $75.
Images of OCTOBRIANA resonate with a feminine power. She is sexually bold, authoritative, and never once depicted as the victim, unlike publishers of her contemporaries in the West, like DC's Wonder Woman, who habitually display their heroine shackled on their covers. Nothing relating to OCTOBRIANA made it out of the evil empire. Not surprising, really. I mean, if you were in possession of subversive literature that would guarantee you indefinite community service, would you be storing it in a cool, dry place for the grandkids? Doubtful. You'd probably burn it. In the early 1980s, Bay Area underground comic book artist and historian Trina Robbins is on the hunt for Red Octobriana. Tracing the origin story of the Cold War calliope has become a pet project for Robbins, and while at a comic book convention in Italy in 1983, she asked several Russian animators about the Iron Curtain Maiden.
Hoax. Fake. Never was real.
Da, hoax.
She was created by woman cartoonist in San Francisco.
Hold up. Robbins is a Bay Area cartoonist, and she of all people would have known if there was a female artist in her hood responsible for the creation of Octobriana. Now, could it be that in her decades-long search for the story behind the story, Robbins became a part of the story, part of the growing folklore of Octobriana? The kicker came a year later when Robbins received a letter from a contact in Finland. As it turns out, Sedensky's art for Octobriana was in fact swiped from a comic called Amazona he'd created with two Czech artists, Bohumil Konečná and Deník Burian, which he subsequently stole. As a matter of fact, in at least one panel of Sedensky's book, a character refers to our beloved revolutionary sweetheart not as Octobriana, but Amazona. Aside from some inconsistent copy editing, the only alteration he made to the strip was to scratch a star upon his female lead's forehead. So, Octobriana didn't exist, and neither did the PPP apparently. Sedensky made that all up. So, what was his intent in writing his book? Was it to disclose the oppressive reality of life in the Soviet Union? Was it part of an innovative PR stunt to drum up some interest in an Octobriana comic book and make some money? Or, as one rumor has it, was it all part of an elaborate trap designed by Sedensky and the Czech secret police to ensnare the underground? We'll never know, as Sedensky reportedly died of a brain tumor in 1991. Regardless of his motivations, Sedensky inadvertently seeded popular consciousness with a brand new superheroine archetype ahead of her time, an archetype that in comic book culture has yet to truly come into her own. Thanks to her blurred ownership, Octobriana has become a character within the public domain. And in keeping with good old-fashioned communism, she truly is property of the people. And the people are shaping her to their needs.
You are paying for this? You smudge the pages, it is no longer collectible.
Throughout the 1990s, the image of Octobriana spreads. Several independent publishers keep her presence visible in a handful of short-lived series, and in 2003, a Finnish cinema company featured her in the short film Octobriana and the Finger of Lenin. So, like any figure of folklore, Bloody Mary, Robin Hood, or Baba Yaga, the power of Octobriana's story grows in the retelling.
Store closing in 5 minutes. Bring purchases to front desk now. We must pay manager Mike's salary.
Do a quick Google search right now for Octobriana and you will find a fresh and growing collection of images produced by men and women making up stories, keeping her effervescent.
Next!
Well, think about it. Right now, while you watch me rattle my trap, you are participating in the dissemination of Octobriana folklore. How's that make you feel? I know, kind of itchy.
Next! Are you going to talk all night, little man, or are you going to buy?
I'm going to buy.
You talk a lot, don't you?
It's my job.
Who pays you to consume so much air?
Octobriana, daughter of the October Revolution, a character born out of mistruths and misappropriation, has become an open source for a powerful and evolving feminine archetype. Robbins said it best.
Octobriana can only be what we make of her.
Because you can't fool the children of the revolution. We'll see you next time on The Panel Jumper.
Next!
Special shout out to Comics Dungeon and AJ Epstein of Emut and West of Lenin. I was never here.